Trigger warning. This episode contains discussions about mental health and suicide that some listeners may find distressing or triggering. If you find yourself struggling, please know that you're not alone. You can find support at Beyond Blue or by calling Lifeline on 131114. If you find this may be hard for you to listen to, please skip this episode. We will also endeavour to provide timestamps in this episode also for people to skip certain parts if that helps you. Please always know that you are not alone. Let's go.
G'day and welcome to Roger Wilco, episode 2. I'm Nicholas and I'm joined here today with my good mate, Kerry.
Howdy.
So, what are we going to talk about today, Kerry?
Nicholas, I've decided we're just going to jump right in and start talking about mental health. I feel that it's an important subject that we should start addressing from the get-go. What do you think about that?
I think that's a good idea. Bit nervous, but I think it's definitely something we should start talking about.
Absolutely. So I'm going to jump right in with some statistics that I have come across in my research, and there's a reason why I want to discuss these. So veterans have the highest rate of mental health issues compared to the general population, including an elevated rate of PTSD, anxiety, depression and substance abuse disorders, whether that's drugs or alcohol. 46.4% have experienced mental health disorders in the past year, anxiety being one of the most common. That's 46.4% of veterans in the last 12 months.
That's insane.
Like, how does that make you feel when you hear something like that?
It honestly breaks your heart to think that those numbers are still so high, yet we are constantly told that there are things being done about it.
Absolutely. So that's basically approximately 1 in 7 veterans experience some form of mental health issues. Male veterans are 21%, so that's twice as likely to have, at bare minimum, anxiety disorders compared to the rest of the civilian male population in Australia. So twice as likely. These aren't figures that have come out from 10 years ago. These are figures for now, current figures about veterans and their mental health. PTSD, for example, we have 17.7% of veterans currently are dealing with PTSD compared to 5.7% of the civilian population. 0.7% of veterans compared to 8.8% of veterans think about, plan or attempt suicide. That's more than double for the veterans compared to those members still serving and the rest of the civilian population. Are you ready for this next one? This one's going to blow your socks off. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Male veterans are 112% more likely to die by suicide than the rest of males in our Australian society. 112%.
Jesus Christ.
112%.
The scary thing about those statistics is if that's what the statistics are in today's society, imagine what they would have been 20, 30 years ago, considering there was still not enough, but there's a lot more support now for the current soldier, and it is talked about more, still not enough, but it's talked about more than it was 20, 30 years ago. So imagine what those statistics would have been 20, 30 years ago.
I really dread to think because, those numbers, coming from a background of psychology and everything, I learned a lot about statistics. It was actually a subject that you cover in uni, but they absolutely blow my mind. So those statistics are from the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, and they were collated in September of 2024. So this is a very recent study that was done, right? The main factors that are contributing to mental health challenges amongst veterans are exposure to highly stressful situations, obviously.
Yeah.
Whether that's peacekeeping, whether that's on deployment, whether that's, in your everyday goings-on that happen within the job that you are doing every day, obviously we are more susceptible to being in stressful situations.
Mm.
Long periods away from home also contribute to that. difficulty adjusting to civilian life, the stigma of mental health. It stops us from asking because we all know back in the day, even now, I still believe if you go to work and you say, I think I'm struggling with my mental health, I think I may be suffering from depression or anxiety or any of those things. Now, I'm not saying that serving members are not supported in this way. I'm not saying that at all. But we all know that if you went and said something like that, you ran the risk of not getting that promotion that you've worked so hard for, that you've done all those courses for. You run the risk of not being supported because there's just nothing in place for that in everyday military life. Social isolation. That's a big one. And I feel with veterans, it's extremely prevalent because, you know, when you are struggling with anxiety or depression or PTSD, you tend to isolate yourself because you can't deal with it. You don't know how to talk about it. And so you keep yourself away from your family, from your friends, from all the things that you normally enjoy. That actually makes it worse, obviously, because you are isolating yourself. You're not talking about things. You're not getting out into the world doing the things that you would normally do. So what do we do about that? What do we do? What do we do as normal people trying to spread the word about mental health amongst veterans and to encourage veterans to open up and talk about their experiences? What do we do as a society? What do we do as normal people? What do we do as veterans ourselves?
I think, you know, the first step for us is for us to open up. If we open up, I think that will encourage other people to open up. Because if we show our vulnerability and open up about our story, me in particular, it will encourage our listeners to potentially open up about their experiences.
Absolutely.
And it is extremely hard to do. But I think if we show that no matter, even though it's hard to do, it is still possible, and it's okay to talk about it, I think it will help encourage others.
I think that is an amazing idea and something that, we are going to do many, many times with this podcast. As we said in the first one, we're going to get lots of people on here to talk about their life experiences and their journeys within the Defence Force, etc. And a lot of that is going to be having a laugh and talking about the good times, but a lot of it is too that we want you to hear people's stories, because you never know whose story is going to be just like your story. We need to support each other, and that was the main reason, wasn't it, that we even started this podcast, exactly. Because there's definitely a need for more support. We need to change the stigma around mental health. We need to encourage, particularly, I feel, given what we do on a daily basis too, the opinions that our elderly veterans have about mental health, and the fact that, you know, during the times when they were growing up as young men and women and then serving, there was no support for this kind of thing. You didn't talk about your feelings in general about anything, regardless of whether it was your military service or not. So it's very difficult, but doable, because we are affecting that change every day, encouraging people to talk about their experiences and to start recognising when they may be struggling with something, and knowing that there is support there, and making sure that we're there for each other, even people that we don't know. I've been in situations recently where I have just met veterans for the first time, and you might just be talking about something completely different, but it just takes one word or one gesture to resonate, where they feel safe enough to indicate that perhaps they may be struggling, or they may feel frustration at the experiences that they're having at this present moment in time. And it's just about making each other feel supported and heard, whether you know each other personally or not. It's just important that we all do that for each other. So having said all of that, I'm going to put my little psych hat on here, and let's have a little bit of a discussion and go on a bit of a journey with your mental health experience. Yep. And how you have overcome what you've gone through. So did you want to start by maybe taking us back to what began your mental health journey? What happened that made you struggle?
So obviously, I think that the biggest trigger, and that what broke the straw on the camel's back was my medical discharge.
Absolutely. And what happened? What caused that medical discharge?
So I had a serious injury. I fell off the top of a truck, and I injured my back. And it took a very long time to recover from that injury. A lot of doctors, a lot of operations and procedures and everything like that.
So just to be clear, though, what happened? You're training for Afghanistan, getting ready to go. You fell off the truck, you broke your back.
Yep.
Fucked yourself.
Yeah.
Literally days before you were leaving.
Yeah.
You're all psyched up. You're from a big military family.
Yeah.
You're so proud. You're, you've done everything you need to do to go, and then this happens.
That's right. Because, 1 minute I'm living my best life. I left school, I left cadets, I accomplished everything I dreamed of doing in cadets. I went up to CSM on my cadet unit, which was all I ever wanted to do. So I accomplished everything in my cadet life. Before the army, I left, I joined the army, went through Kapuka. There were some really hard times in Kapuka, like there is for anybody. But those hard times, I was able to go past those hard times by going, this is what I've always wanted.
Yeah.
Or since the day I could remember, I either wanted to be a police officer or a soldier like my dad.
Yeah.
That's all I ever wanted. So I was living my best life, finished Kapuka, finished my IETs, got posted to 3 RAR as a truckie, and I was there for about 2 years, and then we were training on a training exercise when I broke my back. So 1 minute I'm doing my dream job, living my best life. I had a partner, had a kid on the way, living my best life. And then next minute, overnight, it all comes crashing to an end. Literally
everything changed from that moment on.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
So I went through the whole recovery process. I went to see a lot of doctors, and basically one day I went to an army doctor. I was at the point where I thought I was recovering really well. I was walking better. I was in a better place physically, and he basically just turned around and goes, "Oh, you're getting medically discharged." Literally walked in his office and he goes, "You're getting medically discharged." And those words coming out of his mouth was just like a knife going through my heart. Mm-hmm. It was the worst thing that anybody has ever told me.
Because you're losing your identity, you're losing your livelihood, how you provide for your family, you're losing your support network, your family, because let's face it, we work closely with these people in our units every single day. They do become our family. The Defence Force is our family. It's our whole way of life. It's just not a 9 to 5.
No.
And by hearing those words, essentially that's all being taken from you, and you don't get a choice in that.
No.
How do you even process that?
Exactly. And for me, I didn't know how to process it. It just went downhill from there. I turned into the angriest version of myself. I was just angry at myself. I was angry at the world. I was angry literally at anybody and everything that looked my way. I ended up pushing my mates away. So all the guys I served with that were, really good mates of mine, they were my brothers and sisters. My boss, I had an amazing boss. I had an amazing CSM at the time that were very supportive of me personally, but I pushed them away because I didn't know how to handle things. So I ended up pushing the people that were supporting me the most, which then in turn made my whole mental health worse because I didn't have that support anymore.
During the transition process, once you find out that you are being discharged and you're struggling to come to terms with that, were you provided with counselling and an opportunity to sit down with someone and say, look, I'm a bit scared about what my next step's going to be. I don't know how to process this. Were you given any help with that?
No.
None at all?
No, I was given no help psychologically. I was forced to go to a transition cinema, and I literally sat down with probably 100 and something other soldiers that were transitioning out of defence, whether that was medically or administrative or voluntarily they were just retiring. So just remember people that were transitioning out of defence.
Yep.
And we literally sat in this big lecture theatre, and there was a whole heap of people that came in and just started talking about all this shit that is somewhat the support services that we can get.
Yes.
But it was literally just a bunch of random shit that they were just bunging on. Like, they didn't really tell us how to get this help. They were just like, this is what can happen and this is what to expect. And that was it. So it was just a big lecture. And it's like, when you're not in the right frame of mind and you're in a room full of 100 and something other soldiers, none of that information makes sense. None of that sinks in. It's death by PowerPoint. Yeah. Basically.
And it's just them crossing the T's and dotting the I's that they've done.
You've done a transition cinema.
Yeah.
And, I sat down with, I had a transition officer. Originally it was in Townsville, but then I come down to Oakey, for the last 3 months of my transition, and I had a new transition officer. And, they just pretty much, they don't really do much at all. Like, they just say that they tell you what to expect when you get out, and that, there's all this help and support there, but they don't link you with that help and support, if that makes sense.
No, they make it your responsibility to reach out for that stuff, which, as a newly transitioned ex-member of defence, that's a really hard thing to do, because our whole military career, we're directed all the time. We're told what to do, where to go. So then all of a sudden you're out, you don't have those supports in place anymore in terms of that direction. Where the fuck do you even start?
Yeah, exactly.
And this isn't something that just happened to you 15 years ago. This was, how recent was this?
2015, 2016.
Right. So it just sounds like really nothing in terms of the supports has really changed a lot. I know there's been inquiries, a lot of money, in my opinion, wasted on the inquiry into veteran suicides and things like that. A lot has come out of it, but we are still yet to see any changes implemented in a positive way overall, I feel, to support veterans and their mental health. So then you're out, all of a sudden you're out.
Yeah.
What do? You wake up the first day that you are a civilian. What's your thought process? How do you get through your day?
At the time, I honestly didn't know what to do with myself. I had just gone through a separation with my wife, so I was in the middle of that. So not only did I lose my career, but I was losing my wife at the time. I had I think my daughter was 3 at the time, maybe a bit younger. So I was juggling the whole being a newly single dad, trying to work out custody arrangements, and finalising divorce and that type of thing. So at the time, I moved back in with my mum and dad for a little bit.
Yeah.
Mum and dad have always been absolutely amazing. They're always been supportive, but they didn't fully understand everything I was going through because I didn't tell them.
Yeah.
My dad knew a lot more than my mum did, because I was able to confine in my dad a little bit more, being a soldier himself and whatnot. But there were still a lot of things, both in my military career and in my personal life with my wife, that I kept from my family.
Yes.
Because I was ashamed.
Yeah.
And not only was I ashamed, but I was also trying to protect my wife at the time, because I thought that was the best thing to do. I was trying to protect myself from how the relationship was going. I was trying to lie to myself that, everything was going to be okay and I was going to come through it. But there's a lot that happened in that time of my life that I kept to myself, and by doing that, I deprived myself from the love and support that probably would have helped me get through it.
Yeah.
So then my mental health just kept declining to the point where, I became suicidal.
You isolated yourself.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Which is
cut myself
exactly
off everybody, my
what
friends,
happens,
everything.
Because you don't know how to talk about what's going on, because we're never taught how to talk about what's going on. We're never encouraged to reach out for support. And so that's a really difficult thing. So then you get to this place where it's really dark and it's really scary.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've got all these issues going on. You've got no guidance. You don't know where to go for help. So what do you do?
And
What did you do?
I just got angry at anything and everything. Got angry at my mum. I got angry at my dad. I got angry at my brothers, my sisters, my aunties, my grandmother, grandfather. I just literally got angry at the world. And when anybody tried to help me and tried to talk to me, I would just snap.
Yeah.
And I remember many a times my dad would try and sit me down over a beer and try and talk to me about things, and I would either do one of two things: break down in fucking tears in front of my dad, which was at the time for me very hard because I always looked up to my dad being this big, tough soldier.
Yeah. And he's also your dad though, right?
100%. Yeah. And I know that now.
Yeah.
But at the time, I'm like, I can't believe I'm crying in front of my dad.
Yeah.
Like, I was ashamed. So if I didn't cry, I got angry. And I was, throwing things, I was punching things, swearing, abusing people. Like, I was not a nice person.
Were you drinking too?
Yes.
Medicating, that's another thing we do.
I kept that from my family as well. I could not go to sleep at night without half a dozen drinks.
And it's almost like a default because to this day, I believe there is a strong culture in the Defence Force where drinking is a big part of everything. It's a big part of celebrating. It's everything, like I would every week, Friday nights, Friday afternoon after work, sporties, whatever, where do you go? The boozer. Anzac Day, where are you? The boozer. You go out with your mates, where do you go? The pub. Anything happens, what do? You have a drink.
That's it.
And it's different when you are in that environment and you are drinking with your friends and, all of that. You're not by yourself. But there's a big culture around that. And so when things get difficult, it's definitely like a default thing that a lot of us do is we turn to alcohol because that's just what we've always done. Whether it's a good or a bad thing, we drink.
Exactly.
And so that was what you knew. That was what brought you comfort, even though you probably knew it wasn't going to change anything, but you self-medicated with alcohol because you knew if I drink enough, I'm just going to go to sleep and I'm not going to think about anything.
Exactly.
So you continued to do that until you got to the point where clearly that wasn't working anymore. And I'm asking leading questions because I know your story and I know how difficult this is for you to talk about. So I'm trying to get you there gently. And I'm just so proud of you for being brave enough to be able to talk about this. But I know that you want to talk about it because you feel it's important for people to hear it.
Yeah, 100%.
So what happened then?
So this went on for quite a few years, my anger, drinking. I started hanging around the wrong people. Started hanging around this bloke that I knew back from school, and I thought he was a really good mate, and started hanging around with him all the time, and we were just literally drinking every single day, every single night. We ended up living together for about 12, 18 months or so, and literally every night that I didn't have my daughter, we were partying, drinking, doing stupid shit. Because I just got to the point where I did not care about anything. Didn't care about my life. I didn't care about anything. I had in my mind that if I just keep doing stupid shit, eventually I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah, something's going to happen and you don't care.
Yeah, and I did stupid things like getting drunk, jumping on my motorbike, driving down the highway, 160 kilometres an hour, blind out of my mind. Sorry, Mum and Dad, you don't know about this. I love you dearly. I'll never do it again. But I did stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
In the hope
something might happen.
Something would happen. Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing to admit. But when you're at the point where you've gone this whole time, you've not, let me make this clear too, during this whole process, when you're doing all of these things, you've not reached out for any support for your mental health. You've not spoken to a psych or a counsellor or gone to your GP and said, I'm not sleeping well or anything like that. You've just completely isolated yourself from even thinking about, and also not knowing that there is help out there because it was never really explained to you in a constructive way, that there are ways for you to reach out and to get the help that you need. So you're just continuously on this path of self-destruction, basically, where it's like, if I hop on this bike and I accidentally get clipped by a truck, as harsh as that sounds, problem solved.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the only time in my life that I didn't have those thoughts was when I was with my daughter.
Yeah.
She's the reason I'm still here.
Yeah.
That kid saved my life more than times than I'd like to admit.
Yeah.
I had times where, I got to, not be so reckless because I was focusing on my daughter. At the time when she wasn't around, nothing else mattered. And I look back on it now going, if something had have happened, that would have destroyed my daughter's life.
Absolutely, because you're in the right mindset now where you can recognise that you need to do the things to take care of you in order to be the best dad that you can be.
Yeah.
But at the time, you don't think about any of those things. You're not thinking about that. You just want the pain to stop.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to make that happen. Otherwise, you would have done it.
Yeah.
Right? So you're still continuing on this path of self-destruction, shall we say, and it brings you to a certain point, doesn't it?
Yeah. I went through a relationship that wasn't a very good relationship, let's put it that way. I don't want to get into too much detail about that, but it was
wasn't conducive to great mental health.
No.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It was, and that ended really badly. And obviously that sent me in another spiral.
Yeah.
There was probably about 2 years that I was with this person that I did start to get my mental health in a better place because I thought I was in a better place. But I was being controlled and manipulated that whole time. And I didn't realise it. My family did, but there was nothing they could do about it. And it wasn't until that come to an end in a really horrible fucking way that I then went spiraling then again. But luckily, that didn't last very long. It was only, it was about 18 months that I finally then found another relationship, which turned out to be probably one of the best relationships I've ever had. Very supportive, very understanding, helped me shape myself to a better person and helped encourage me and realize that I needed the help.
Yep.
So if it wasn't for her, who I'm still very good friends with, she's the mother of my youngest daughter, she helped encourage, she didn't force me, but she helped encourage me and help me see that I needed some fucking help. So I started to see a psychologist, I started seeing doctors, and started to work on my mental health, which then eventually got me to doing this really, really good program down at the Toowong Hospital, which is military PTSD and trauma recovery program, which is a 6-week program down at the Toowong Hospital, where you go in every day for 6 weeks. That's even Saturday and Sunday. You don't stay at the hospital, but DVA puts you up in like one of those hospital motelly things. And I was very, very lucky. I was on that program with 5 other really, really good blokes, and we all held each other to account. So there was a lot of times where, because it's very hard to talk about it, and none of us really talked about our mental health before going on that program, that we would sit there and the facilitators would be asking us questions, much like you are now, to get us to talk about things, and we'll just be like, oh, no, I don't feel that way. Or no, I don't do that. The other boys will be like, no, dickhead. We know exactly what you've been doing because we've been there before.
Yes.
We all hadn't been through the same thing, but we all been through very similar things, and we all came from the military background. So we're like, no, dickhead, how about you stop lying to us and stop lying to yourself and talk about your issues.
And
so we forced each other and held each other to account to talk about these things.
In an environment where you felt safe to be vulnerable, so you were able to, and breaking that stigma of, I'm a tough military man, I don't talk about my feelings, I don't acknowledge when bad things happen, I don't talk about bad experiences. Even in this conversation, like, I'm looking at you and the people listening aren't looking at you, so they can't see, but I know, because I know you, how difficult it is to talk about these things. And avoidance is a big thing. we just don't talk about stuff. And, you know, same thing will be when we talk about my journey eventually. It's exactly the same. It's textbook, you know, it's everyone's. So the fact that you felt safe in an environment doing that course where you were able to talk about the things that were really at the crux of what was causing you to not give a shit about your own life, basically, and acknowledging the triggers and the stresses and them empowering you with the tools to recognize that there is a way out of that and there is a way to change that is a really powerful thing for you. And it has a ripple effect, obviously, in the rest of your life. It affects your children. It affects the relationships with your family members, with your friends. Yeah. But most importantly, it affects the relationship that you have with yourself and your own mental health, which is the most important thing.
Exactly. And I think one of the biggest things that I learned during this journey and that the program helped me learn this was that as a soldier, we're trained to be angry and aggression and fight the enemy. So every time we feel an emotion, our go-to feeling of that emotion is anger.
Yep.
So every time I was sad, I turned it into anger.
Yep.
Every time I was scared, I turned it into anger. Every time I was happy, I found a way to turn my happiness into anger.
Because it's our default emotion.
Exactly, and that's where we feel safe. We feel safe when we're angry. Because when we're angry, we can fight and we can protect ourselves.
Yeah.
So I found that when I started to recognize the feelings I was feeling and not turn those feelings into anger, I was able to better my life. I was able to feel happiness and all those other emotions that I should have been feeling and not turn them into anger. Because I was literally finding excuses
to get angry,
start a fight and to get angry,
absolutely,
and to be able to walk away.
Because it's safe there. Exactly. We know how to regulate that. We know how to control that. So being given the tools to recognise that those things need to change, that's a really amazing thing. And having the strength to do that too is also just the best feeling ever, because all of a sudden, even though it's new territory in your life, oh, fuck, I'm actually really happy about something. I'm feeling positive about where my life is going. Instead of trying to sabotage that, you're embracing that change and you're embracing the opportunity of feeling positive and happy. And I think that is just something that we need to strive to encourage everybody to want to achieve for themselves, even though it is because you've got to go through some dark shit first before you can even get to a point where you're able to even entertain doing those things. So speaking of dark, I'm going to walk you back to the darkest time, and I want you to tell everyone what that was like for you. What happened, what brought you to that point, but ultimately too, and thankfully, what made you not go through with it?
I don't really remember what the trigger was to get me to that point that day.
Just a build up of everything.
I think,
probably.
it was just a build up of everything. It was something that I think it might have been, I might have had an argument with my ex-wife. Obviously not blaming her for it, but I think I had an argument with her about something stupid because I would have probably gotten angry or something about something.
Started a fight.
I started a fight with her because it made me feel safe. But then in turn, it obviously made me feel shit as well.
Yes.
At the time when you're really, really angry and you're punching holes in walls and you're throwing shit and you're ready to kill somebody, you feel great.
Yeah.
But then when that anger feels wears off, you then feel like shit.
Yeah.
Because you've realised what you've done. And I was sitting in my shed, made a little man cave in my shed. I was sitting there drinking a bottle of scotch and just thought, I've had enough. I'm fucking done. I can't keep doing this. And I thought I could try to tell myself that, everybody would be better off without me. My daughter would be better off without me because me and her mum won't be fighting all the time. And, she won't see my anger outbursts anymore. So she won't be scared of me. And, I won't be a failure to my dad anymore because I won't be here to fail him more than what I've already have, because at the time I really, really thought I was a major failure to my dad, which I know now because of the love he's given me and the support he's given me and the love and support my mum has given me, that I never failed them. But at the time...
But that's all you can think about at the time. That's how you feel.
You know, 5 generations of my family service on my dad's side ended with me.
Yeah.
And I just thought, fuck it. And I put a rope up in my shed and stood on a chair and put it around my neck, and pretty much, I think I rang somebody, I think, to leave a voice message, knowing that they wouldn't answer. And I left them a voice message, and telling them to tell my daughter that I loved her and that type of thing. And then I went to step off this chair, and I saw, I'll make it very clear to everybody that my daughter was not there. She was at her mother's house. But I saw her standing there as if she was right in front of me. Yeah. And she just looked up to me and said, "Please don't do it, Daddy."
Yeah.
So I saw her standing there and telling me not to do it and that she loved me, and took the rope off my neck, and I fell to the ground, and I just cried fucking hours.
Yeah.
Just in a ball like a blubbering baby for hours. But I'm really, really glad that I didn't take that step.
We're all really, really glad that you didn't take that step.
I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my daughter. And, you know, she doesn't know this, and, you know, she may never know this, but maybe one day when she's a lot older than she is now, she may listen to this podcast. I don't know, but she saved my life that day. And if I had done that, I wouldn't have my second beautiful daughter. I wouldn't have an amazing friends that I have now, like you and Tim and Starkey and Samantha, and I wouldn't have a beautiful new partner who has got 4 kids of her own, which I absolutely adore. I wouldn't be where I am today and as happy as I am today if I made that stupid mistake.
That's it.
Yeah.
But thank you for being so brave and for being so open. And I know it was really important for you to do this, even though you knew it was going to be hard, but you wanted everyone to hear your story, because we want to put our money where our mouth is, right? We want people to know that this is something that is happening every day to normal people, and that it is okay to say that you're not okay. It's okay to say that you need help, because you never really are truly alone, even though you feel it.
Yeah.
And there is always a way out. Because after that, what did you do? When you had finished crying and you had realised that it's not something that you wanted to do, that you wanted to be here for your daughter and your friends, what made you pick yourself up and fucking get shit done?
I think, so I kind of fell asleep on my floor after hours of crying, and kind of woke up in the morning and just said to myself that, you know, I needed to, first thing I did actually was I called my psychologist, and told her what happened, and she pretty much said, "Get over here right now."
Yes.
Basically, get in your fucking car, come here right now, and if you're not here it takes you 10 minutes to get to my place. If you're not here in 10 minutes, I'm calling the police, basically.
Yes.
So I went, spoke to her a heap, and then actually she admitted me into hospital, into the psych ward for a week, because she just wanted to make sure that I was safe.
Yes.
And that's when I started to really, I started to understand that I was not a well person.
No, and it's not something that you can just turn off either. It's like in your worst times, you think about those things, and then even if you don't, obviously, which you didn't, thank God, follow through with it, it's not something that you can just turn off in your mind. So you need to get the supports in place to open up and re-educate yourself on your opinions of yourself and of your life, and learn the tools to deal with shit instead of pushing it down to the point where everything just becomes too much and we end up in this place where it's just like, I'm just fucking done. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yep.
When nothing could be further from the truth. There is always a way out of it. There is always an opportunity to reach out to somebody, whether that's on the end of a phone call or sending a one-worded text saying help, or whatever the case may be. Surrounding yourself with people that understand and support and encourage you. So that would have been a really hard journey for you to take.
Yeah.
And to be able to sit here and say that was a really hard journey for me to take, but I did it. And now making it your focus to spread that word to other people so that they can understand that they might be sitting here right now and might have had that thought the same thing yesterday. The same thing might have happened, or a very similar thing might have happened, and knowing that they're not the only person that has gone through this. And so, you know, guys, when we say you're not alone, you're really not. You might feel it, and there is no discounting that, because when we are all struggling with these things, it is a very isolating and lonely existence. But there are people that want to help and want to be there. We are just two people, but it's important to us that you know that you have people that you might not even know yet who want to be there and support you. And that is the whole point of us starting this podcast in a very raw way, because let's admit it, it's very raw.
Yes.
We don't have all the latest bells and whistles. We don't have fancy mics and all that sort of thing. We literally sit here as two mates and we talk to each other. And the way that we engage right now is exactly how we engage with each other every day, because it's real. And we wanted this to be real so that people can feel close to that, I guess, would be the way to put it.
Yeah.
And everybody, you know, Nick's experience is not, without sounding, I'm not sounding blasé about it, but it's not an isolated experience. It's not an uncommon experience, but it takes a lot to be able to sit here and talk about that. And again, and I know I've said it already, I'm so proud of you. Without being condescending, I'm so proud of you for opening up like that.
Thanks, mate.
For people to hear that don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
But that in the one hope, like you said, if it resonates with one person and helps one person and stops them from doing the unthinkable that in turn will then affect their whole family, then you've done your job, right?
Exactly. And I think the biggest key that I want people to take away from this is that no matter how hard it gets, it does get better.
Yes.
It takes time, takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of people around you to get to that stage, but things do get better. And I am walking proof of that, because after the hard work that I put in on my mental health, because of the people I had around me who supported me and encouraged me to do that, I am now in the best part, living my best life.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I've got a good relationship with my eldest daughter's mother. I have an amazing relationship with my youngest daughter's mother. We are very, very good friends, which is really, really good for my daughter. And you know,
and it's good for you too, right?
Yeah, 100%. And you know, I've got really, really good mates. I've got an awesome family that, you know, love me more than anything in the world. That, you know, they're probably gonna hate listening to this. So in a way, I kind of don't want them to, but then I do want them to listen to it at the same time.
But you know what? As hard as it is only going to bring you closer, because they were there for you and supported you as much as you allowed them to. And this is the thing. Yeah. It's not on them. You kept them at arm's length because you felt that was best.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right.
But knowing you as they know you, they will hear this and know why you did what you did and why you kept them at arm's length. And I guarantee you that it is only going to foster more understanding and more empathy and more love and more pride in you for being the person that you are, the amazing person that you are, for having the strength to get through it and to openly talk about it like this. And again, it's just something that you and I both feel is really important. And as we said, it's about creating a community where everybody feels supported. And if we have to start that from the ground up with just you and me, that's exactly what we're doing. Yeah. Not even taking into account what you and I do every day, helping veterans and looking after them and helping them navigate through some difficult stuff. Putting all of that to the side, the focus of this is to create a community where there might be another Nicholas out there, or another Kerry out there, or another Wayne, my husband, out there, who is struggling with something, who can reach out through all the avenues that we have available to reach out to us, and we will help and we will put things in place and we will guide you. It doesn't matter where the fuck you are, you can always get us, and we will make sure that all of our contact details are readily available all of the time, because that is how passionately we feel about this. It has to start with us, and that's what we're doing.
Exactly.
So I think that we might leave this one there. And I really hope that everybody has really opened their hearts and listened, which I know they will have. And it's not said out of sympathy or recognition or any of those things. We just wanted to share your story to connect with the very people that we want to help and encourage. So we thank all of you for listening to that today. And again, I want to thank Nicholas for being so open and honest about his experience, because it wasn't an easy thing for him to do, let me assure you all. But he's just that kind of an amazing person where he felt it was important to do. And I just wanted to guide him through it as gently as I could, and I hope I did that.
You did. Thank you. I also want to say thank you to my mum and dad and my family for putting up with me and my mental health for so long, and that I love them, and they're the reason I'm here today. So
trust me, they know that.
I love them dearly.
They know that, and that's what parents do, brother, because you do the same thing for your girls in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So we hope you all have taken something away from this. Again, I just want to stress that we are here, that there is always someone to listen. You're not alone, so please reach out. If there's anything any of us can do to help any one of you personally and point you in the right direction of supports, that's what we're here for. So thanks very much for listening.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.